¿Y qué fue? ¿Y qué fue? ¿Y qué fue? ¿Y qué fue is the word of the year. ¿Y qué fue is the word of 2025. Oh my goodness. Chelsea 3, Football Club Barcelona 0. They laughed at my club for losing 3-0 in the Club World Cup final. They said, well, all this, that overratedness. And again, it does not excuse what we did. We were horrible that day, and Chelsea were deserved winners. But at the very least, when we lost, and we had a Champions League in hand. We lost, and we gone through 𝙀𝙬𝙦𝙾𝙬, Bayern, Atletico. What does Barca have? No, what does Barca have? ¿Y qué fue? ¿Y qué fue? Barca in big games this year. Lost to PSG team. Lost to 𝙀𝙬𝙦, and should have been more. Have now lost 3-0, a humiliation ritual to Chelsea FC. And again, another point. At least when we lost to Chelsea, we lost to their fully fit squad. João Pedro was there. And the Iceman himself, Cole Palmer, was there. Cole Palmer wasn't here today. He stubbed his toe at home. Had him sidelined. Well, what's the excuse now? What, Pedri, they were missing Cole Palmer. PSG went, we were missing half of our squad, half of our starting squad, and we still went away to Barca and beat you guys. So what is the excuse now? This team is whack. This team is cheeks. This team is overrated. This Highline FC, Hansi Flick FC, we're winning the Champions League this year, FC. You guys are overrated. I can't believe people have Barca as a top 5 team in current form this year. Based on what? What are we watching? Are we watching the same games? Barca in top 5 conversations. Wesh. Oh. This was a demonstration of power, a demonstration of force, an exercise of undue, unruled power. 3-0 away from home. You can go and say, red card this, red card that. We'll address everything. But first and foremost, the one bit I want to go and address is at this point, it's sort of unrelated to the game, but it kind of is. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to start saying the quiet part out loud. Barcelona are paying these football rating sites, FotMob, SofaScore, whoever you want to call, they're paying them. Because how do you explain to me, ladies and gentlemen, this is 𝙀𝙾𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙾's rating at halftime. 7.7. 7.7. Who am I kidding? This is at the end of the game. 7.7. If I go to the beginning, this is Barcelona's rating at halftime. This is the team's rating at halftime. Yamal, this is 7.2. And look at the next one. The next one is going to be Chelsea's rating at halftime. This is Chelsea. Chelsea, by the way, we're 1-0 up at this point. We're all over Barca, had more possession, more shots on target, everything, had 3 offside goals, so on and so forth. Chelsea's highest rated player was Moises Caicedo with a 7.0. Yet Yamal, De Jong, Barsi, all had equal or higher ratings than the best Chelsea player. At this point, ladies, do I need more proof to go and show that they pay these guys off? Do I need more proof? What more do I need to show? No. What more do I need to show? What more? How do you explain to me that Lamine Yamal, in the first half, even the game as a whole, didn't have a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but he didn't have a good game either. He didn't have a good game. Had 2 shots, I believe. One shot was, traveling at a snail's pace. Didn't really create much. Was dispossessed. Yes, did win the most duels, so on and so forth. But a pretty average game. A 7.2. Initially, on FotMob, was at a 7.7. Again, in comparison, this is what at halftime. So as we said, 7.2 for the Lamine Yamal. At this point, there's no stats even for the duels he'd won, this, that, and the other. This is rating at 7 at halftime. In comparison, at halftime, this is Chelsea. Again, on SofaScore. Barca. How is Doug Barca at a 7.1? Ferran Torres. This is the first half alone. So Ferran Torres, after missing a generational opportunity, as in it is easier to put the ball in the back of the net than to miss it. You have to willingly try to miss. 7.4, highest rated Barca player, second highest rated player on the pitch. Then going back to Chelsea. So for perspective, you guys saw what Lamine Yamal had. Lamine Yamal was at a 7.2. 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙬 was at a 6.1 in the first half. When we say that this is this disgusting Barca PR, this is what we mean. This is precisely what I'm talking about. But I'm not done. I want to then address this offside gimmick. Because at this point, you guys are consistently going to go and say it wasn't offside this. Here's the lines. Why are you playing? This is the Rory Delap goal, which I believe is the one to put him 3-0 up. Why in the world, when you're 2-0 down already, you're a man down, why are you playing a high line? Why are you playing this offside trap? Explain por qué, why, pourquoi, por qué, why are you playing the offside trap? You're a man, why? Because you can go and say that, yes, ultimately Chelsea scored 4 goals that were offside, right? And only one of them stood. That's great. But you know what they did? One of them stood and you didn't score. And that's ultimately the thing that I do not get with this wanting to play the offside trap, is that yes, you do go and you'll go and say that. Most times it probably does work. But the issue is that the net benefit you get from it of winning the ball higher up and being able to swing your attacks, further up the pitch is not worth the time that the 2-3 times in a game where it's not going to work. And now the other team has a clear cut opportunity. And you're basically praying that the opportunity is offside. I will never understand how you can still defend it. Last year, fair enough, you had it. It was working, so on and so forth. But even still, last year, that was the downfall for Barca in the Inter game. But, people don't want to talk about it. But this year, now the proof is in the pudding. Everything is shown all in HD. We are all seeing this in 4K. So the upside, again, why are you playing it? But going back to the ratings. So in the end, this is the final rating. Again, this was updated, and in the end, you guys will go and see 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙬's rating. But this is 𝙎𝙊𝘾 immediately when he came off. 7.7 match rating. This is Lamine Yamal when he came off. 7.7 match rating. Now, the person who couldn't come gave me a rational, cogent, deductive reason that is sensible as to how, even at the time, how Lamine Yamal had a better performance than 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙬. I'm all ears. No, at this point, I'm all ears. What more proof do I need to go and show that Barca PR is absolutely disgusting, satanic? How is it that you go and you watch? Because you guys love to go and say, right? Watch the game with your eyes. Watch the game. I test this. I test that. I watch that game. Under no circumstances was Lamine Yamal 𝙬𝙬𝘼𝙎 better than 𝙎𝙬𝘾𝘼𝙎. Under no circumstances. I test, GA, whatever you want to go and say it. 𝙎𝙬𝘼 was better than Yamal. But no. But that's my sort of little side tangent on that. Getting back to the game. 3-0. A demonstration of force, as I was saying before. The thing is, funnily enough, despite Barcelona predominantly having being a man down for most of the game, the possession was decently even. However, in terms of the stats, 1.76 XG, 15 shots, 6 shots on target, 3 big chances created. And the one big chance created for Barca was the Ferran chance. Complete and utter domination from Chelsea today. And the thing is, 3-0, low-key kind of flatters Barca. Low-key kind of flatters Barca because you go and you think, any of those other offside goals, one of those count. You can't go and say it's not undeserved. 3 of their goals, 3 of Chelsea's goals today, 3 of Chelsea's goals today were not counted, did not count. All it takes is one thing, one leg, something, and you're on. I fail to understand why you guys continue to go and play with the line, as I said previously. At first, I remember at the beginning of the game, we were going and saying, I was discussing with chat and saying how, it looks like Barca's not playing the high line. I'm saying, yeah, it looks thus far. And I'm happy I made that caveat because, oh my goodness, Why are you still playing this high line? You're already 1-0 down. You're a man down. Why are you still going and staying to your ideals? Why? Because the thing is, though, you'll go and say, oh, but there's the... You can't press when you're a man down. If your offside trap is already super reliant on your team being front-footed in terms of the press, when you go a man down and you have one less man to be able to go and press, why are you going to still institute your offside trap when you're a man down and you have one man less to be able to press? It blows my mind. It blows my mind. I don't know what else to say. But first goal, own goal by Koundé. That was, well, the second goal because Fernandes had already scored initially, completely deserved by Chelsea. Then 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙏 completely and absolutely dusted 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝘾𝑝𝑆, sent him back to the bleachers of Barcelona to go and smack one, a bombazo, into the top corner. And Liam Delap obviously is the one we talked about, the pass from Enzo Fernandez to go make it 3-0. But to go on to talk more so about the players overall, again, I've already talked about Lamine Yamal. This is now the updated one that they've got for the actual final game. And here they do have 𝙎𝙬𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙏 being higher rated than him. However, 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝘾 6.5. 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝘾 6.5. The same 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝘾 that got absolutely sent by 𝙎𝙬𝘾. Fouling left, right, and center. Got completely torched by, what's his name? Pedro Neto. Him. Okay. To go on, though, this Barcelona team is just wow. At some point, what's the excuse? You'll go and say, Pedro wasn't here today. Okay, they were missing Palmer, and they were missing João Pedro. So you can go and say, oh, we were missing Pedro, you're most important, whatever you want to. Okay, that's cute. They were missing, or definitely what they would argue, their best player, and one of their best players in João Pedro. Whereas Barca, okay, you were missing Pedri. You had Rafinha, who came on in the 62nd minute, so played 30 minutes. You had Rashford, who came on at halftime. You had Lewandowski, who's now been fit. Lamine Yamal, this time around, you guys can't use the excuse Lamine Yamal's fit. Unless again we're gonna come out, oh, 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. I heard he got operated. Lamine Yamal's fit now. So this was, you could go and say, Barca's strongest 11, bar Pedri, against Chelsea, losing two of their best players. And Barcelona were second best. This team is overrated. This team is not all that. This team is not all that. At this point, I don't know what it is. I think it's personnel. I think it's tactics. I think it's a combination of all the. I think the biggest thing I'll go and say, I just think that teams have figured out Barca. I think that the way Barca played last year is something you can only do for a set period of time, because now Barca's attack is not firing like it used to, and on top of that, now everybody knows how to be Barca's high line. Make a third man run, or just continue to play, and one of them is going to go, and they're going to score. And Barca has never been great defensively, and they're not as good offensively. At least last year, when Barcelona would go 2-0 down, when Barcelona went 2-0 down to Inter, in both legs, you're like, oh, Barca could always come back. And I said this in this game, oh, it's not over. But this Barca team is not all that threatening. Yeah, it's nice to stat pad against Athletic Club, who are in the relegation in La Liga, against these in La Liga teams, Valencia, so on and so forth. But here's where you need to do it. Against the best of the best. Barcelona this year against the best European opposition, losing to Madrid, losing to PSG, losing to Chelsea, drawing if you want to go then to Club Rouge. It's not all that impressive. It's not all that impressive. Oh, this is a wake-up call. I mean, if it wasn't already, this is an absolute wake-up call. I think Barcelona need to go, and I think ultimately the biggest thing is that Barcelona can't go and can't really afford to go into buy a bunch of players. They don't have the funds for it. They don't have the money. However, I think the only thing you can really do is tactically just start by dropping off the offside trap. I think if you do that, you're going to concede far fewer chances and you'll be okay. And that reminds me of one thing, which is sort of really an aside of really nitpicking. João Garcia. I thought today, I mean, all the goals, you can't really do much about them. However, that one Enzo Fernandez goal that was disallowed. All I'm saying, if that was a certain keeper with his head shaved off, I don't know. I would be hearing a lot more, but we'll see. But anyways, that's an aside. Going back again, there's the red card. I already know a lot of people are going to be going on and coming on Araujo. I think that, yes, it's stupid of him to go into that challenge and whatnot. But I kind of feel like it's a challenge. He's just late to it. And it's unfortunate he had a yellow card previously. But it is what it is. At some point, it is hard to go and defend them. That this is now 2 times. If you want to go and say 3 times in these last 3 years where you had a big moment in the Champions League where he sold you. This time around now, for getting the red card. Last year, you could argue for the equalizing goal by 𝙬𝙬, and again 2 years ago, PSG Barcola. We all know that one. It's interesting. It's interesting. And now the thing is, though, the interesting bit is now the table, because at first I was going and looking at Barca, and I was thinking Barca's basically, even when they lost to PSG, I was saying, okay, this is the thing with their draw is that it was so favorable to them that they basically, like, if they fail to get top 8, it'd be embarrassing. PSG still have to go through, still have to go through Bayern, still have to go through, Spurs, still have to go through Newcastle, all these other teams. Whereas Barca, okay, you have Chelsea, but those were your 2 toughest games. So your 2 toughest games this season that you played, you lost. And then you went away to Club Brugge and you lost. Or drew. And should have lost that game. So realistically, Barca is currently on 7 points. You could argue, could and probably should be on 6. And if that was it, then if they're on 6 points, they'd have 1 less goal difference. They'd be roughly here. They'd be where Marseille, or they'd be below Marseille. They'd be right above Juve. They'd be 21st. Realistically speaking. And again, Barca has one of the easiest draws. And I think that's still one thing that's going to be able to salvage them, is that even though the position isn't great, they're 15th. There's 3 games to go. If they get 9 points out of 9, that puts them 16 points, and 16 points should be enough to put you in a top 8 position based on last year. But again, Barca made it really difficult for themselves. They did not by any means have a difficult draw. If you go and you look at Barca first game, obviously against Newcastle, then PSG, then Olympiacos, then drew to Club Brugge, and then lost against today. And then they've got, I believe, Slavia Prague, Frankfurt, and can't remember the last one off the top of my head. But they're all games that Barcelona should be winning. So it'll be interesting to go and see. Barca should now has to get 9 out of 9. If they drop basically any points out of that, I don't think they're going to be able to qualify with as a top 8. I just want to quickly go and look at how many points you needed last year. So Barca's on 7 points currently. Last year, 16 points was the minimum you need to go and get. 15 points was not enough. So if you go based off last year, it is likely that Barcelona will not be able to go and get the 15 points or 16 points required if they drop a point. So yeah, that's it. That's all. It's very interesting. Going to have to wait and see for Barca. Barca is not in good form. I wouldn't say Barca's a top 5 team. I think their problems are multiple. I think unlike last year, at least, where I wouldn't say Barca was good defensively. At the very least, back then they were still, they were the best team offensively. You can go and make the case that they're better than PSG. Fine. But now this time around is that not only are they, still bad defensively, have regressed defensively, but even in the attack, which was their strong point last year, they're not all that great. Sure, they're able to stat pad, the league, so on and so forth. But in the Champions League, when it really matters, like, it's not like today. If we go back again, to quickly look at the stats, they didn't create anything. Even in the first half, or for most of the first half here, it was 11v11. 0.0, no. First half, my bad. 0.74 XGS, 3 shots, 1 shot on target. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's up next for Barca, how they bounce back from this, what, if anything, Hansi Flick is going to go and do. But it's going to be interesting to see. Thank you guys very much for listening to the video. Apologies for my nose. I got a bit of a runny nose, and hopefully we'll be back and ready for tomorrow. PSG going basically off Spurs, as well as 𝙋𝙊𝘿𝘾𝘼𝙎𝙏 FC, also known as Arsenal, versus Super Bayern. We'll be there. Be there, be square. Thank you guys very much for listening to the video. It's been a pleasure as always. And remember, stay safe, stay kind, and stay blessed. Godspeed.